Hello, and welcome to the Posers Podcast, the place where we skip the fluff, say the quiet parts out loud, and dig into what really matters. This is where photography, psychology, and business collide. I'm Jody, your host, and I'm bringing you my raw takes, hard wins, and a whole lot of unfiltered honesty about what it takes to build a photography business that actually connects and makes money. So ladies, grab your headphones and get your tits up and your ears open, because we are going to build something really incredible together. Well, hello, and welcome back, my beautiful posers. I am so excited to have you here today because I get to announce that on today's episode, I am joined by the absolute powerhouse that is Brittany Elise. You know her as the woman behind one of the most successful portrait studios in the country, and also the founder of her 10-week mastermind, Leveraging to Luxury. And in this episode, we are pulling back the curtain on what it really took for her to get there. And I'm telling you, it did not start with a 7-figure spreadsheet. It started with a literal shoebox of a studio and Brittany's sheer determination to build something incredible. This is a huge episode. We're chopping it down the middle. We are going over part 1 today, okay? Part 1 is wildly inspiring. We are diving into the idea that your mindset is really the only thing standing between you and success, and the real reason that you might be stuck in the, I just want the digitals rat race with your clients. We're talking about how you can really make IPS feel so deeply personal and never salesy, and even talking about the one brick that Brittany laid inside of her business that really and truly changed everything. We are getting so real about digital burnout and why McDonald's wages inside of your business are not cute, and how competing with yourself is really the only competition that matters. You are going to feel more ready than ever to raise the bar after listening to this episode. So let's dive in. Well, hello, Miss Brittany Elise. How are you? Wait, do you go by a full Brittany Elise, or do people just call you Britt? Do they call you Brittany? What do they call
Brittany.
you?
Yeah,
Just Brittany full? You don't ever, because every time I talk to you, Brittany, I call you Britt.
Okay, so Britt, that's a funny thing. So my whole family calls me Britt. People I'm close to call me Britt. I do not like being called Britt if we're not on like
so good. We topped this off right here.
Yeah.
I would have called you Britt the whole entire podcast.
It doesn't I don't really say anything, but sometimes when people first start working with me, they'll call me Britt, like my other employees that have been with me for 4 or 5 years. And so I'm always just but I'm usually I just let it go. But sometimes Zach will call me by my entire name and I'm like, what did I do? Why?
Yeah,
Literally,
if Brian calls me by my name, I'm like, get my government name out of your mouth.
Yeah.
That is for my passport and my passport only. Stay away from that. Even if he calls me Jody, I'm like, excuse you. I'm sorry, what was that? Sorry, I'm a honey, I'm a babe, I'm a sweetheart, I'm a whatever, exactly. But a Jody is not it.
Yeah. No, but when he's
oh my God, I love it. I'm like, well, thank you for being here on the Posers Podcast. I feel like me and you have been talking about doing this for a long time, but I feel like the people of the Posers have also been asking for a little Poser by Brittany Elise mashup. So I feel like we're giving the people what they want.
I love it. I'm so excited. I am so excited to be on here with you and all the fun things we're going to talk about.
I love it too. And we sort of volleyed around several ideas of what it was that we were actually going to talk about. And we've come full circle from whenever we were first talking. It was we were going to talk motherhood. We were going to talk about the shame that other mothers can give and how much it kind of impacts the growth of your business and all of that. And we've come full circle and we're going to talk straight business today.
Yeah. I love it. I'm so excited.
But I feel okay, so to give everybody a little bit of a backstory, I met you, we met via the interwebs,
right?
Yeah.
Actually, Brittany, I was gonna say Brit. Actually, Brittany, the very first time that I came into contact with you is on the homepage of RedTree Albums, right? Like there's a video there of you that you did like a collab with RedTree saying how to quadruple your income with album sales or like
Yep.
something along those lines. And I watched it one time a long time ago whenever I was first starting the studio, and I was like, oh my God, I like this girl. This is so great. And then like 2 years later or so after that, because I never like reached out, I just sort of like, I don't know, fangirled over you. But then you reached out because you were building your studio and you asked me what kind of flooring I had here in the
Yes.
studio. And so then we started to talk over DMs, and then we started to talk about me coming and speaking at your conference because you're the founder of Focus and Flourish. And that's how we actually like connected and started to build this friendship. So really it hasn't been all that long that we've known each other.
Yeah. 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 I love
I'm
it.
kind of obsessed with our little blossoming friendship.
I know.
But because of that, because we don't really know each other like through and through as like besties would, I feel like I have to start off the podcast by asking a few like really hard hitting, really, really important questions that the audience needs to know. Okay.
Okay. Were these in the notes beforehand? Because I'm getting a
No,
little
these are not in your notes. You have no time to prep for this because that's how I work. Okay. Question number one. These are literally coming off the top of my head. I do not have notes for this either, so don't feel like you needed to prep. Question number one, Zach or Dylan Efron? Which one's your favorite? Oh, she stutters. Oh,
I actually,
she's
can I be totally honest? I don't really know who they are.
okay.
I know who
You know what?
Zac Efron is.
I'm gonna have to stop recording.
Can I go Google that? I just have never been that girl that like pays attention to really attractive men. I don't know.
Okay, this is so nice for your husband because I do the exact opposite. I literally come home with like something on my screen being like, "Excuse me, look at what Dylan's doing on the internet today."
I've heard you like talk about them, but I only know who Zac Efron is. Like I don't know. I'm assuming they're brothers, but
They are brothers, and we met Dylan in his
I'm gonna go Google it while you're talking.
In his full amazing glory. We met Dylan on the set of Traitors, which is my absolute favorite show, it was going to be my next question for you is what's the trashiest form of reality TV that you watch? If you say you don't watch reality TV, I'm going to have to stop this podcast.
I'm officially fired. Okay, so I did Google that. I'm gonna go with Dylan Efron. I just think okay, again, I don't follow him. I have no idea. Just a girl looking at a photo. He just feels a little more down to earth.
Brittany, have you not seen me posting their golf video on my Instagram stories?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. I'm going to send it to you personally. And literally, like, when this airs on the Posers podcast, I'm going to have to give a follow up in my stories that, like, you have done your due diligence, you have done your homework, you now understand the assignment, and you know exactly which Efron brother is your favorite.
Okay. I'm assuming maybe Dylan Efron was not the right answer.
No, Dylan is the right answer. Dylan is the right answer. I'm obsessed with Dylan because of the Traitors, because we saw his cute little personality and he's so sweet and he's so nice. He is all of the things and I absolutely adore him. I'm the opposite. I don't really know Zach all that much. Like I was never like a younger tween who was like oogling over Zach. So
he's like he's a little too pretty for me too. Zach.
Yeah, like, and I get the vibe that Zach would be shorter. And I'm a tall girl. So like I need to make sure that
height is important. Yep.
I talk about it as if I'm literally going to be standing next to Dylan Efron. And I'm like, can I wear heels with Dylan or can I not? I cannot. Okay, what's the questions in life, reality TV that you watch?
What reality TV do I watch? What was that?
What's the trashiest show on reality TV that you watch?
When I was editing my photos, which I haven't edited for a few years, I used to binge Real Housewives. I loved Real Housewives.
Which city?
I love the sophistication of New York, but I also love just the vibes of the OC.
Okay. Okay. Did you know that
Yeah.
Gretchen Rossi just came back to the OC?
No. She's
Okay.
beautiful. She's like such
She
a
is beautiful, but the OC is a train wreck. And I'm like, it's in season right now. And I'm actually like not watching it because I can't get on board with OC anymore.
yeah. Yeah.
But okay. Well, with you saying The Real Housewives of New York is your favorite, you get a full pass and
Okay.
you have passed every single test that you needed to pass in order to be a poser. So we can get started on actually giving the people what they want to hear from us.
Love it.
Because it is not this kind of like trash conversation that they're expecting. Brittany Elise, you are literally the queen of all queens. Like what you have built. No, for reals, don't you giggle over there. What you have built out of your studio is nothing short of goddamn amazingness. Seriously. I walked into your studio in Florida and you can see my studio back here behind me that like it is 18 times the size of what I have here in Vegas. You are running probably 18 times the amount of revenue that I am running here in Vegas. And honestly, like everything that you've built with your mastermind and the studio and the team that you have built, it's seriously absolutely incredible. And you should be like throwing yourself a party every single day.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I will say, those who have followed me for a while, my previous studio that I was in for 4 or 5 years was a literal shoebox. Like I didn't even have a desk.
A little better.
Yeah, it was a literal shoebox. And so I remember when I left my coaching group at the time, I shared a video with them and I walked them through my studio and I opened drawers and I showed them closets. I showed them the shower. There was a shower in my old studio that was packed to the brim. And I did this because I wanted people to understand the amount of sacrifice that I had made in that studio year over year, how I had literally given my desk to my employees. I used to eat and work at the small countertop next to the fridge.
I used to eat and work inside the shower.
Yes, yeah, like it was like, and even my clients, like, saw that I remember you were like talking about clients clapping you up at the conference, and I have so many clients who saw how much sacrifice we made as a team. My employees ate lunch in their car. Okay. Like, because I didn't have a designated break room. I did not even have a desk. And so when we come over here, this is just like, we feel like we live like in a palace now. And it's just, but there was year over year of sacrificing to be able to save, to be able to have this. And so it was a lot of work, but yeah, now we feel like very just like spoiled and just like really honestly blessed to like have the spaces. And I'm in an office that's mine and it has a door. So
I love your office is stunning. I have seen it in person and even on the video, like your wallpaper, it's gorgeous. But what I actually love about this the most, because what people don't know is that we were chatting just a little bit like before we hit record, and we were talking about the idea of like being an educator and still maintaining that relatability. And I said to you before we started, I was like, Brittany, like you are running a 7-figure business, like your relatability is maybe a little bit hard for people to grasp because you've been so successful, because you've built so much. And so to hear this story of like how it started out and that you've literally brick by brick built this thing, and that it has taken years, and that it has taken so much time and so much effort and so much sacrifice, that's the part that makes it so relatable. Like it's not as though you just started a little photography business and then all of a sudden like, oh boom, let me buy a building and let me like make it gorgeous and let me have this whole entire like client experience happening. No, like it's been years and years and years, literally brick by brick. And this isn't on your list of questions, but like if there was one brick that you laid that you knew was like the start of the foundation of everything that you built, like was that buying the building? Was that like hiring the team that you hired? Was it your first hire, the first time that you outsourced something? Like, what's the one brick that you're like, I'm going to put this in place and I'm going to be able to flourish off of this?
Yeah. I would say the most important brick I have laid and I've continually laid is investing in myself, investing in business coaches, investing in people that are experts in their area to come in and give me advice, and really working towards continually being better and always competing with myself. And that is in the form of that investing in myself and like growing to be the next best version. And I do think that there's people who are okay reaching a destination and being happy there. And I think that's totally fine. But that's not in my DNA. You know, I reflect a lot on like my upbringing and my parents also owning their own business. And like I was taught to constantly evolve and constantly become the next best version of yourself. And that means investing in the right people to help you get there. Yes, my team has helped me, but I hired somebody to help me learn how to build a team, you know? So investing in your education and committing to doing it. I think there's a ton of people who sign up for courses. There's a ton of people who go to masterminds and don't actually show up and don't actually do the work. So committing to yourself when you do that.
I love that. I actually love, because I feel like we hear that a lot. We hear like, you know, making sure that you're investing in people who have like blazed that trail ahead of you, making sure that you're learning from people who have done it and done it better than you could ever do it if you were trying to do it on your own. But that piece that you just said of like really competing with nobody else except for yourself. Like, I feel like that's where me and you are so aligned, because I don't have that governor on me either. That like, I don't know that I'll ever get to a place where I feel like, okay, I've completed the project. Like, okay, I'm done with this and I can just stop here because I feel comfortable. So I love that. I love that you said competing with yourself. What do you think, like, mindset wise, like what's the biggest block that photographers face whenever they're trying to transition into like what you're doing? Most specifically, like what we planned on talking about today was in-person sales and what that looks like inside of your studio and all of that. But what's the biggest mindset block that before we ever even talk about in-person sales, what's that block that photographers have to get over in order to do it?
Yeah, I 100% believe the block is themselves.
The mountain is you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You have to grow. And I don't just mean in-person sales. I mean in general in your business. You have to be willing to see your weaknesses and you have to be willing to do the work that sometimes is kind of ugly to get to the other side. And so when especially in my coaching, when I see people who are not as successful or maybe don't even get off the launch pad, it's usually them. It's usually, and I get to know my students on a very deep level. And I've been doing this now for 5 years. So I've learned a lot and I've recognized patterns in certain people. And so that's how I can say themselves, because I can pinpoint the people who have had those blocks. And the most common of those blocks is themselves.
Interesting. So, not money. You don't think it's like a money mindset kind of block. It's like a just like, am I worth this? Am I like able to do this? Can I build this for myself sort of stuff?
Yeah. And I do think a lot of like the money mindset block comes back to you. It comes back to your personal beliefs around money. It comes back to your personal beliefs around your value in your work. That is internal work that you have to do. Sure, you can go take all the programs in the world, but none of them are going to help you if you're not willing to recognize where you have hang up in believing in yourself, you know, where you have hang up in talking about money, or you know, or even like just actually taking action on what you learn. That all comes back to you. And so you can take the best courses, you can have the best coaches, but if you don't have the willingness to work on yourself, you'll never get past it. And so, and I know my students, and sometimes like I get super emotional when I see their wins, because I know how hard some of these women have worked on themselves to like, when I see that they get, their first 10K sale or whatever. It doesn't even have to be 10,000. Their first break, right? Their first like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. I'm not cheering for the sale. I'm cheering for the internal victory that I knew that they went through to get that. And so that mindset block is so important. And I think that a lot of people are just not willing to do the work because it's not pretty and it's hard, and you have to peel back layers of pieces of you that, in some ways are somewhat traumatic, and so yeah, by and far
the personal therapy piece is almost just as important as other like business pieces whenever you're like building something like this. So I totally get it. Yeah. Was there ever a time in your business that you weren't running IPS?
Yes. So when I first started, so I opened in 2014 and I was digital only. I was kind of running the mini session model because I was still a nurse. By 2015, I quit. I had Maverick, and my first child just gave me that like, F it. Like, if I'm going to be on this planet, I'm going to teach my kids how to follow their dreams. And I just finally had that push to believe in myself. I had something to do the work for, right? And then around 2015, I opened my first 2016, I opened my first like retail storefront studio essentially outside of my home. And that's when I moved into packages. And then I built the value-based model that I still run my business on. It's what I coach my students on. I did that in around like 2018. But I've basically been product driven since I went full time.
Pretty early on.
So
you just got it.
What was
like
that?
In between that, like 2015, 2016 timeframe, like what was like you just got it? It just clicked in your head, like, hey, I need to be making more money at this. I need to have a better model at this. Or was there somebody that you were following that really clued you in of like, I need to invest in this education so that I can learn this model?
Yeah. So I kept seeing IPS. Like I kept seeing, and like you kind of think back of like, I had this conversation with Zach and we were just talking about like just such big business stuff. And I was like, gosh, I remember a time when like I barely knew anything. I was equivalent to like an infant in the business world, And
that was me 3 years ago, switching from a wedding photographer into portraits, being like, okay, stop. I'm a newborn baby again.
Oh, stop. You still had so much. God, I literally like praise the ground that wedding photographers walk on because it is a hard job. I mean, it is like, I am like, bless these people because I could not do it at all. I like joke, I will deal with a toddler throwing themselves on the floor over like a bride who's about to have a panic attack. Like, I give me all the people who don't know how to take direction or think rationally over adult.
Give me anything over weddings. I love it. Okay, hold on. What were we were talking about? So that switch that happened whenever you were hearing IPS all over the place and wanting to learn that model. Who was it that you followed that you like invested in order to learn that model?
So I was in that group IPS masterminds at one point. I joined it. I recall. So one thing that I noticed very early on is if you look at the people who have been doing this for a long time and doing it well and making significant revenue, we're selling products.
Yeah.
And I realized very early on the rat race that is digital images. You are trading your time for money.
Yeah.
Whereas when you move into a product-based business, you are letting the products and the value of the overarching services attached to them do the work for you. So you have people who, and this is where I get into my value-based model that I teach, the value that people place in not just pretty pictures, but the value that people place in the finished products that you deliver to them with your sessions. And so you're letting the products do the work for you. I mean, yes, you are still shooting and you are still editing and all that, but you're doing a fraction of it, but you're making significantly more because the value is in the entire process with the results of products at the end.
Yeah. My biggest thing too, I think I talked about this before on a different podcast with Shannon, is that the minute that I switched into that process, I found myself so much more inspired as a photographer, so much more willing to go to like whenever somebody had paid me and I was doing just digitals and I had to go to the shoot, I was like, that money has been spent a long time ago. Like I would go to the shoot feeling as though I was working for free because they had booked me, even if they had booked me for, $2,000 or $1,450, I think is like what I used to do a lot of times. I would feel like that money is already gone. That money is already spent. I don't have anything to work for on this shoot. And now that it's switched, it's like I show up to the shoot and in my head, my revenue is based on how well I show up. It's how, like the images I create, I know I have to get there. I have to hustle. I have to like be creative and be on and be inspired and make sure that I'm creating for my clients in a whole different way. And that in and of itself has completely transformed my output, my creations, what I'm making with my images. And I love that part of it because again, that internal competition that I always have with myself, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing now. Well, for your team, you're thinking the same thing now that like we're all going into fall family sessions. So we're all going to be like at our busiest. And I'm chomping at the bit of like, oh, I'm going to do this for this person and this for this person. I'm going to blow this person's socks off because I know that my revenue is also tied to that. So it keeps me in a place of being inspired.
Yeah. So. And for the people listening who are not photographers, like I love to share with my clients. I love for them to see part of what they're investing in when they come to our studio. A huge thing with working with a digital photographer is they're getting paid a flat rate. So whether they show up and blow your socks off or show up and have an off day, they're going to make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Whereas when you work with a photographer like us, the better we perform for you as the client, the better results you get and the better results we get. And so it's actually a very positive working relationship because there's motivation on both sides. Just like what you were saying, digital photographers show up to shoot and that money has basically already been spent. They don't have the desire to the same motivation that we have, right? To create the end result that is truly for the client. And so, I think as a client from the outside, people think, oh, well, this is so much easier. But also you end up getting a much more diluted experience. I think a lot, like I'll have clients sitting in an ordering appointment and they'll say, thank you for not giving me 150 photos.
Mine do too now. Yeah.
Thank you for spending the time to give me the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
That process as a photographer takes time to give you the best of the best, to do the head swaps, to land the incredible family photo, right? That takes work before, right? You even deliver that gallery. So I think to myself, like these photographers that literally just deliver it's laziness. It's laziness because at the end of the day, if they have to spend another hour and a half making a gallery of 150, they have to spend the time to call out the bad ones, to do the head swaps. That hourly rate is getting less and less and less.
I used to say you might as well go work at McDonald's because your hourly wage is just as low.
So then you have these photographers who are trying to make more, right? But then they're struggling to raise their prices because they're not adding value, right? And so, and they're also competing in the space of the market that's on price. You're really competing on price when you're in the digital only section. And so you're like, okay, well, how do I make more money? And then you start cutting corners and you start delivering average work. You start, like
the only way to make more money is to do more shoots. And the only way to do more shoots is to compromise yourself. So, and then you're going to lead to burnout. It's like such a I don't know, domino effect that's going to lead you down that path for sure.
100%. Yep.
Okay, go back to say whenever you were first making the switch, even the couple of years after you first made the switch. So 2016, 2018, 2019, that kind of range. When a client would come in and say, we just want digitals, what's your response that you give clients whenever they come in? They're like, no, I don't want the products. And I know you don't have this anymore because you've built such a great brand, such a great business that people come in, they know they're doing framing with you. So not talking about this now, but from before when you were making the switch and when you had clients coming in saying we don't want all these products, we just want the digitals. What was your response to that?
So when it comes to the digital images, especially in those earlier days when I was first starting in products, right? Because you're making a switch. You're making a massive model switch. And so naturally you're going to have, and I'll just say this in general, people inquiring that they just want digital files never goes away. As a whole, our industry has conditioned people to think that that is what they want. Because you go onto any photographer's website and they're talking about digital images. And so naturally leads, consumers think, well, I'm supposed to want digital images because that's what I'm seeing out here in this universe of photography, right? So, but when it comes to talking to them, my biggest thing is just to lead my clients with a service-driven heart. And I know deep within the core of who I am as a business that giving my clients digital images only is a massive disservice to them. It is a massive disservice to them. I am just I'm not only letting my work exist nowhere in a cloud, on an iPhone, right? On Instagram, which is, I believe my work is worthy of so much more than Instagram. And so just literally leading that process with my clients from the service-driven heart that I believe to the core of my existence. And so I do think a good pricing strategy is important to that. So our pricing reflects that we value artwork. And so for a lot of our clients who think they want digital images, they're encouraged into products because of how it's structured. I will turn leads away who genuinely do not have any interest in products. And I can,
interesting.
So
you have a whole entire pre-booking situation where if they tell you some sort of a questionnaire, some sort of a process that happens before the shoot, before they're booking, that if they tell you that they only want digitals and they're not budging on that, they have no interest in anything else, then they just don't get to work with you.
Yeah, I've just point blank on a consultation call told someone listen, I can tell that price point is a big concern for you, because they're asking a lot of pricing questions and they're trying to break that down and they're trying to say, hey, well, if I do a 30-minute shoot instead of a 60-minute shoot, and what if I want 10 photos instead of 60, so when they're really trying to break, I'll just be very honest and I'll say, because I know that I can just tell our studio really truly values a bigger picture beyond digital files. And I think you would be so much better served by a photographer who specializes in only that, because I know that bringing somebody like that into my business is going to leave our cup just honestly very unfull at the end of the day. It's extremely disappointing when we work with and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But at the end of the day, I've been doing this for a decade now. And so I want to go home and feel fulfillment. I want to go home and be like, wow, I love my job. I love what I do. And I know that working with somebody like that, it's not going to be good for them. It's not going to be good for me. And so I'll refer them to somebody and I'll just be very honest. And I've had people literally point blank say, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hearing me and recognizing that. And so I will say there are people who I think want digital images, but they want digital images because no one's ever shown them what the options are. And so for a lot of our clients, that's why they're coming to us, because they do want their handheld and they want someone to show them what the options are. And when you couple that with a pricing model that encourages products and puts value in the products, naturally you end up with product sales. So
yeah. I've seen the opposite happen too. And I think that it's because I'm more like in the infancy of running a product-based business, is that sometimes, like, say I go through my whole fall sessions and then I've got like a week opened or something that I could still do, like, oh, okay, like if any of you guys didn't get your fall session that you wanted, let's do a quick, like in the studio, just mini session sort of a week. And I'll get clients in during that time who think that they don't want to spend the money with me, that they know that I charge, and they'll come in and they'll do a mini session and they'll get they always think that they're going to get off cheap even with a mini session, but they come in and they do the session and they fall so much in love with the photos. And then because my pricing is set the way that it is, they're still really investing heavily on just getting the digitals if that's what they end up really deciding. But then they go through that whole process with me and it almost like trains them to think in the product-based way, so that by the time the next season comes around, they turn into full-fledged like fall family like clients, and they're spending the money and they're doing the products because they got this like little taste of it just during the mini session sort of thing too. So it's interesting to see people come in thinking that they want one thing, and then they have the experience with me and they see what we can like do together, and then they're all of a sudden they're trained and they're like, it's like they've got a taste of the luxury side, and so they're like, no, now I want all of the pie. And so they end up coming back, and some of those people end up being like some of my best clients too, because they went through that like boot camp sort of version of it. Right.
Yep. And there's definitely, I do, like, I agree with you. There's like some clients that just, it's like that process over time, and you kind of chip away at them, right? You chip away, like you might get them a small product, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, why am I going to do this? This is like, and really truly, like when you step back as a client and you think, you realize the amount of value that we provide. We are experts in gallery wall design. We are experts in album design. We create the beautiful imagery. We know how that imagery comes together in a finished product. We have access and we have curated an incredible product line, right? So when you really think like, hey, I'm just going to get my digitals and I'll do that myself. Smart clients, and I don't mean to say,
I tell them all the time, I'm like, you'll never do it, but you'll never do it.
Yeah, so you'll never do it, but let's just talk about the learning curve to even try to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so most of my clients are working professionals that realize that their time is so much better suited doing something else and letting 100%. Me, the expert, do it for them. And so, and certainly I will say that, like, I have found that the more mature, the older my clients are, the more financially established they are, the more valuable their time becomes, the more ideal of a client they are. When you're getting 100%. These people who just graduated college, just got married, just got their first career, you know, and it's hard for them because their time hasn't become exponentially more valuable as a mom who's maybe a little bit more further down the road in her journey. So
I feel like I felt that kind of, I don't necessarily know that it was a growing pain, but I felt that kind of struggle whenever I switched over, because a lot of my clients were from my weddings, right? So like the couples that I had shot their weddings, and now I'm switching over into doing product based, and they are younger couples. They do have a lot more expensive. They've got little bitty kids and they're not as established in their careers. And so that was a hard jump for them to make. But surprisingly, a lot of them still made it because they valued everything that I was doing so much. So it was like, I know it's a hard jump to make, but once you do it, it's so much more, even just for me in my business, it's so much more of a fulfilling business for me to run, knowing that I'm serving my clients in that kind of way. Okay, so say you're like sitting in I call them a proofing meeting, you call them an ordering meeting, sales meeting, whatever it is that you're going to call them. What are 3 things that you consistently say during the sales process when you are, I don't want to say convincing people to do products, because I don't think that they need much convincing, but in order to like get to the point that you are making the average sale that you're making, what are 3 like consistent things?
Well, I think, and I say this from having coached people too, I think that one of the most important things that you're doing in your ordering appointment is asking intentional questions and
Yes.
listening to what your client says. And so a lot of times clients have objections. And so you need to be prepared to speak to those objections and how you solve those objections. But when you leave your ordering appointment with intentional questions, you guide your client to a decision that they were a part of. I think a lot of times we go into ordering appointments and it feels salesy because you're in it for yourself. You're in it for your sale. And
Yeah.
I go into my ordering appointments in it for my clients. And
Yeah.
I ask them the intentional questions to deliver on a beautiful product that's reflective of what they want for their home and I a lot of times I have to show them what that is, but I ask them intentional questions to get to the bottom of like clarity around what that's going to look like for them.
Yeah.
So definitely intentional questions. I think the other thing is guiding the sale as an expert. I think a lot of times sales, you know, I see, I'll go do follow up calls with some of my coaching students and sales will fall apart. And they're like, I can't figure out why I can't close these. I don't know what happened. And more often than not, they lose their position as the expert and they let their client sort of like take over the sales process.
Mhm.
And I think there's a way of delicately being the expert in the guide in the process and not letting somebody like overtake you or allow their indecision to escalate to a point of losing the sale. And so being the expert is key in that process. And that takes time to learn. You don't just suddenly start doing sales and you're an expert, right? Like I've been doing this
No,
now.
sales is literally I feel like sales is the hardest thing that you have to learn as a photographer. You think that you're getting in and you're just, a photographer and you're running a photography business. And it's wild the amount of time I spend on the sales side.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think more often than not, the reason why people leave IPS or don't find success is that they're not giving, like, people want, I think we just like live in this microwave world where we want like instant results, right? And I explain to my students that this is a slow cooker. Okay. Like you cannot start this tomorrow and expect the sales that I have. You just can't. And any educator who tells you that, walk the other way. Okay. So it takes time to learn how to listen to your clients, to learn how to guide them as the experts. And so you might start with lower sales, but as you get better, as you do this more, as you custom design for them, you're going to be a lot more effective in the sales room process. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think a lot of people quit because they want that, like they want it now. They want the big sales. They're like, why am I not getting this? And they end up like puttering out. They get exhausted by the work that it takes to actually refine and be good at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love what you said before about like really making sure that you're asking intentional questions. That's one of the very first things whenever somebody comes into the studio and they sit down and I know that we're going to go through proofing. One of the very first things that I ask is, what is your goal? Like, how do you want to enjoy these photos in your life? Because not a single person is going to tell you that they want these photos to die on their cell phone. Like not a single person is going to say, I want to only post these once a year on my Instagram whenever it's somebody's birthday. And then I want to like never look at them again. I want to spend all of this money and then never enjoy my photos. Nobody is going to give you that answer.
Yeah.
But you also can't wrap the sale around whenever you go through the process. Like if they're giving you those answers at the beginning, saying, I love these photos so much. I want to enjoy them every single day. I want to make sure that my kids see these photos. I want to make sure that my grandkids see these photos. Then whenever you get into the ordering process and they say to you, I only want digitals, you have that answer already there. You can say, but wait, hold on. You've already told me that a goal for this is that you want to be able to enjoy the photos every day. And the way that you enjoy the photos every day is they're either up on your walls or they're sitting on your coffee table. They're there, they are accessible so that you can curl up on a couch and you can look at that album, or you can wake up and walk into your living room or your kitchen or wherever your like main area that your family hangs out. You can see that every single morning. You can talk about those memories that you had together. That's how we enjoy it every day. If I give you just these digitals, they're going to die on your phone, because at some point your phone is going to blow up. You're going to have to go get a new one. And will you then go into your online gallery and re-download all of these photos so that you can scroll through and look at these photos at night while you're about to lay in bed when your children aren't even there with you? Absolutely not. But if you don't ask those intentional questions on the front end, then you never have that. I don't want to say it as ammunition, because it's not ammunition, because it's not hostile, right? But you don't have that information to give back to them to say, you're guiding yourself down the wrong path, and it is my job to step in and guide you down the path that you told me you want to walk down.
Yep.
So
exactly. I think that single-handedly is one of the most important questions, and it has to happen early, because you'll have these clients who will walk through indecision, right? They'll walk themselves down the path of indecision, right? And then what gets easy for the client is to make no decision.
Okay, so that is a wrap on this episode of the Posers Podcast. If you loved it, please subscribe, rate, and review, because honestly, algorithms are needier than all of our ex-boyfriends combined, and ladies, I need all the help I can get. If you've got thoughts, questions, love letters, even hate mail, please send them my way. I actually read every single one of them. So until next time, stay bold, stay messy, and don't let the bullshit win. Tits up, ears open, and go build something incredible. Bye for now, friends.